and here is the second video on using that sample essay here to illustrate the points I discussed in my earlier video on organizing your essay. Okay, so this is an essay from one of my students at least 3 years ago when I taught that theme. So clothing industry and short men. So I'll go over, I'm not going to read word by word, but I'll just walk you through the organization here, illustrate the points I mentioned in my earlier video so you can visualize how things should look like. This is not a perfect or exemplary or an excellent paper, but it's a very good one. Okay, so proceed with caution and make sure that you build your own essay the way you see fit, but making sure that you address all these points or consider all these points and these organization ideas when you write your essay. So if you read the opening sentence, the clothing industry has advanced so much in the past century, making clothes that accommodate women of all types, overweight men, and tall men. Okay, so this is just an idea introducing the topic that they will be talking about clothing industry. We don't know yet about the details, but we can see a hint of it, just a hint here. You see that? So the student here talks about women of all types, overweight men, and tall men. So if you look at this and you look at the title, you start seeing where this essay might be going. That, yes, we're talking about clothing industry, but with focus on short men who are not included in this statement here, okay? Now, he moves to this question. It was a he, of course, as you can judge from the essay. Why then are there no specialty stores or even sections in clothing stores for shorter men in America? And this is more of a rhetorical question. He wasn't really seeking an answer here. And then he moves to discussing the problem that he's addressing in his essay. There is a large population of small-statured men that have problems finding clothes that fit properly without requiring alterations. I remember, and then he uses a personal experience to show that there is actually a problem and to show why he's interested in that topic, why he's involved in this, why this is a problem for him and he wants to find an answer for it, or why he thinks that something needs to change about this, okay? So I'm not gonna read that, you can read it on your own. And then here he said, then I did not get to take it home. I had to wait 3 weeks for them to complete all the alterations. And then he moves to his thesis statement. The clothing industry should look at all of the new business and potential profits they could generate by starting to design specifically with shorter men in mind. From this thesis statement, we know his argument, we know his target audience here. He's not talking to shorter men, he's not talking to clothing stores, he's talking to clothing industry, factories that or that produce the clothes. Why? Because he's talking about new business and potential profits. So the main target audience here is the companies that produce. They could generate by starting to design, this is the argument, to design specifically with shorter men in mind. So this is his argument, and it's clear what his purpose is and what his audience is just from reading the thesis statement. So this is a good thesis statement because from here we know much about what to expect coming up in the essay. Okay, now I'm not going to read all the essay, but I'd like to start here with, so this is the thesis statement. Let me see, I'll put a comment here and then I'll upload this to Blackboard. So this is thesis statement. Okay, as you can see here. Now, if you move to the first paragraph here, it says, in America, the average height of a man is 5 feet 9 inches, with 1/3 of the population falling below this benchmark. This is what I call, let's change the color here so you don't get confused. Okay. So this is topic sentence. Topic sentence, as you know, and they have told you that in high school, the first, my laptop is acting up again. Okay, let's see. Let's try to do this. Please. It's not. Okay, let's see here. Now you understand the problem I've been having for a whole week now. Oh my God. Okay. Sentence. Yay. Okay, good. So topic sentence means it's the opening sentence of the paragraph. It gives us an idea about what the whole paragraph is going to be about. It's going to be about how tall are men in America and how many shorter men do we have in this country. So this is one function of the topic sentence. The other function, especially in an argument essay, is that it has to be related to the thesis statement. So if the thesis statement is talking about designing for shorter men, it makes sense that the first paragraph is talking about shorter men. How many shorter men do we have in America? And why do you think they are, the student has decided to choose that? If you move down here a little bit, you see that companies today can make clothing out of just about any material or in any shape or form they want. So why is this clothing dilemma still an issue today? So although it's not quite explicit, you can see that the student is targeting his audience again, the companies, okay? And this is the same audience that we could see here in the clothing industry. So you could see the connection and how the whole essay is getting connected to each other and becoming more cohesive together, okay? Now, and then here you see that he's using a source. To put it into a better perspective, 1/3 of the male population would be a little over 40 million men. We have 40 million men who are under 5 feet 9 inches in the US. That means that there is a huge market for the clothing industry that they are missing out if they are not producing clothes for this particular population. Okay, and I'll let you continue to read this paragraph, but let's move to the next one. Again, the clothing companies design their clothes to fit perfectly on the models that will advertise the clothing for them. So here he starts to identify the problem or the causes of that problem. One of the reasons behind that problem is that clothing companies they design the clothes for the models, and then later in the paragraph we see the requirements for the models to be between 5 feet 10 inches and 6 feet 2, and this is a tiny URL or a shorter link to the source where he got that information from. Okay, so again, number one, the topic sentence here makes it clear that the whole paragraph following that will be talking about models and how these models are not representative of the average men height in the US, and that's how there is a problem here. Okay, and then he goes on to discuss other things. Another point is that when you read this topic sentence, the clothing companies, and then it's very clear that it's connected to the same thesis statement that talks or addresses the clothing industry. You see how the whole thing is working together now? Everything is coming together. Everything circles back to that thesis statement, to the main argument. So this will make sure that you are, when you're writing, you are staying on track. You don't get sidetracked to other ideas. And then here, men in America have claimed that they have inconveniences attempting to buy, should be to buy, not to buying, a wide variety of clothing. If you think more about this sentence and this paragraph in general, you can think that, you know what, maybe because this discusses more or describes the problem more, like football jerseys for fans are gigantic and make smaller men look like children. There is nothing like one size fits all sock size. Sizes 6 to 13 don't fit people with shoe sizes smaller than 9. So he's kind of giving details of the problem. He's giving some examples and giving some really good, and it's not just one example. You see football jerseys, sweatpants, shorts, and socks. Okay, so he's giving different examples to support and to show that there is actually a problem. Some of you might think that this paragraph should be actually the first paragraph after the introduction because it describes the problem. And I totally agree with this. This paragraph should have been earlier in the essay because it describes the problem. Because if you are a tall man or if you are a woman who doesn't know short men, maybe you don't understand why this is a problem or if this is even a problem to start with. But the information and details and examples in this paragraph are really foundational and really get the reader to start to think, oh, yes, there is a problem with short men clothes. So this paragraph should have come a little bit earlier in the essay to prepare the reader for understanding why there's a problem by describing the problem and then moving. And actually, if you move a little bit here, you'll see that there is some kind of like the counter argument. Shopping in the children's excuse me, shopping in the children's section as a grown man can be embarrassing because here you see just before that, another problem is some of these men just give up on buying clothes and are forced to get expensive hems that never look right or simply shop in the children's section of the stores. So this can be like, you know what, it's not really a big deal. You're making a big deal out of it. You can just go buy from the children's section because the sizes can be better. Seriously? So he's now countering that counter argument or refuting it by saying that no, that's not a good idea because it can be embarrassing for grown-up men. Or sometimes the problem is that you cannot find, like here, finding clothes without childish design on them can be a struggle. If you go to the children's section or even the junior section, and you are a grown-up man in college or something like that, or even somebody who has a job, and wear something from the junior section will look weird on you, even if it fits nicely, but shopping in that section might be embarrassing. And at the same time, the design might not be a good fit for a grown-up man. So he's refuting the idea. And you see that it would just make a lot more sense if the clothing industry, circling back to his own argument. You see? I'll try to find another color here. Yeah, let's play around. So instead of the orange, what about the pink? Yay. Okay, so this is gonna be what? This is gonna be circling back to his main argument. So what he did here was he presented the counter argument. He refuted it by showing how bad of idea it is, and then going back to his main argument that the clothing industry should actually start producing clothes for short men, which was his original argument in the thesis statement. Now you see how things are working together and how the organization is coming together by presenting one piece of the problem at a time and countering the argument. One really good move that the writer did here was he started talking about two companies, Peter Manning, and there is another one here, I don't remember the name. Yes, Ash and Anvil or Anvil, I don't really know. Anyway, so here he starts talking again to the clothing industry by showing an example of a company that started producing clothes only to short men and how profitable that business turned out to be for them. Okay, so the student here didn't stop in his argument as just saying, oh, there is this problem and that problem and it's because of this and that. But you know what? Here is a model that you can emulate and it turned out very profitable for that company. And he's using some quotations from the CEO and founder of that company to support his opinion. And you see here, absolutely the most ignored market. I'm repeating because it's worth repeating. Remember what I said last time in my presentation, that you only quote what's really significant, at what really adds value to your opinion. This is a very good example because here said Marshall Cohen, chief retail analyst at the NPD Group. So this means that he got a very good authority figure, somebody who can really talk about profit and market, and he used his own words to support his argument. You see how it's all working now together? And then if you look here at the conclusion, there is rather large market for clothing specialized in shorter men, as Peter Manning has proven. However, the clothing industry, for some reason, still fails to recognize how much of a nuisance, I always struggle with this word, it is for short men to not have their own section in stores. And then here you have another quotation from Cohen. With this being said, look at this finale here. I believe that just one store could make a difference in the situation. If just one major retailer would take a chance and open a section specifically for shorter men, it would expose how much of a profit potential exists in the realm, and it could possibly expand to every clothing retailer in the country. He didn't just reiterate his argument, but differently. He proposed a solution. He proposed an action. He invited one major retailer to take the chance, to take the risk and open that section. And then other retailers would understand, would see the benefit and the profit that they are ignoring or overlooking. So others will start following suit, and then the problem will be resolved. So you see, that's why I chose this essay for as an example here, because it has a lot of good moves, from discussing the argument to showing the example of the other the two companies, to using very intentional quotations from authority figures that can really speak about this problem and this business. And all the time, the target audience was very clear, which is the clothing companies or the clothing industry. So I hope this essay has shown you some, or illustrated to you, or demonstrated some of the ideas that we've been discussing for 2 weeks now, and some of the ideas that I just discussed in the organization video. I'm looking forward to reading your outlines this Thursday and then your drafts next week. Don't forget to sign up for your conference with me. The link is on Blackboard. And if you have any questions, just drop them on Slack. See you there.